Welcome to Wargaming's absolutely terrible idea for World of Tanks console, and of course, it's the brand new premium World War II vehicle, the Cobra T-54. This is the Tier 9 American premium heavy, medium, light tank destroyer, auto-loading, turbo speed, 70 kilometers an hour vehicle that is, for some reason, absolutely fine and balanced by Wargaming standard. So, what does that all mean? Because that was a lot of information within a few seconds. Well, this is a autoloader with 4 shells. It's got 360 alpha damage per shell. Of course, 720, 1440 total alpha damage in one singular clip, which means that yes, this vehicle has better alpha damage, or pretty much the exact same alpha damage as an FE 4005. And it reloads in about 20 seconds. So, with 1440 alpha and a 20-second reload, you'd think, it's a heavy tank, it's going to get terrible armor. Well, no, not really. This tank actually gets a decent amount of armor, albeit the turret does have that big cupola, which is a big weak point of this vehicle, as well as having the American hull armor, which can get penned quite easily. But remember, this is a very, very versatile, medium heavy tank, to be honest with you. It is a heavy tank. It plays much like a heavy tank in terms of its armor, its effective armor as well, so you don't really have any problems in that regard. But certainly this thing can be really, really, really strong in game, and this is actually overpowered in my personal opinion. I played 7 games, I averaged 4,000 total damage, and the combined damage is obviously more than that, so I don't even know what that was, probably like 5k or something like that. So over the course of 7 games, averaging 4,000 damage. And we have some really, really good games as well in there. And actually the first game that I played in this vehicle will be the second game of this replay, this being, I guess, the better game to showcase just how OP this thing is. I mean, you're seeing here us against the people poking the corner, and you've got things like the VKP, which you can just unload your clip into. Remember, this thing's intraclip reload is actually not even bad, so you're looking at about maybe 2 seconds maximum, and with all of the perks you're probably looking at just slightly less than that to unload both shells in your magazine or what have you. Now, one thing that this tank does really well is when people decide to make rash decisions like the T-54, and you can just pump damage into them. And you're seeing here that, like, the opponents, if they want to take me out, they've got to do something. They've got to move forward, they've got to poke around that corner, expose themselves to the teammates, and of course, as with all autoloaders, most of the time you're going to be able to get into a position where, you know, you can fire off all of your shells. They might hit you once, or maybe they won't hit you once because of the armor of this thing. They might just bounce, and then you can kind of leave as and when you feel like, because this thing's pretty fast as well. And we'll get into the turbo mechanic that Wargaming thought was a fantastic idea to give a heavy tank, remember, the same sort of boost that the CS63 gets. And yeah, let me just tell you, it's not very balanced at all. And as we shut down the UDES 16 on the enemy team, that ends up with this flank being pretty much totally destroyed, and we absolutely love it. So, what was I on about with this turbo? Well, essentially what you can do with this vehicle, and it's not slow to begin with, this thing can move at about like 40 kilometers an hour, maybe 35 as you're moving on the flat. But if you actually want to get somewhere and you've got somewhere you need to be, or you're trying to push forward, what you can then do is go and activate your kind of mobility perk, as you're seeing on the screen right now. That is the same as what you get with the CS, where it increases the speed of the vehicle, your I guess power. It's like a turbo mode, and you can go, what, like you're seeing here, up slopes and stuff at 50 kilometers an hour. You're now seeing us build up the speed up to like 50, and this goes even higher as soon as you get up to like 60, as you're about to witness here. 60, 65, it's just unbelievable that this is a heavy with an autoloader that has armor, that has pretty much everything. And remember, as soon as you want to aim, granted, like if you're in this mode you get terrible accuracy and aim time and blah blah blah, but it only takes like 1.5 to 2 seconds to be able to change back into the normal mode, by which time like 90% of the time you can just travel around in the normal mode anyway. So this is particularly useful for when you're chasing down damage at the end of the game, or at the beginning of the game when you're just trying to get a bit of extra damage within your game. So this is stuff I really do think is just absolutely disgusting how this is in the game. It may have or may not have been balanced with just the ability to have the 4-shot autoloader with 1440 total damage in the clip, and the rest of the tank being as it is now, but with the fact that then you can add on the speed boost, this thing is like just unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. It's actually like broken 100%. The one limiting factor, because there is a limiting factor, is that you have to fire premium to make this account work, or this tank work, because the standard pen is like 230, which means if you're coming up against pretty much anyone at tier 10, which you will in this tier 9 vehicle, then you can't really pen. But we'll get into that in the next gameplay and you'll see what I'm on about. So talking about what I was on about is actually going back to the beginning game that I played, and of course we loaded full premium with the vehicle because I'm currently testing out whether actually firing more premium ends up with you getting a better win rate. I mean, you guys can probably work it out. Yes, it probably will. But the key thing is that with this setup, it makes this tank OP. Maybe if you don't use full premium, then the tank becomes not as OP because you start bouncing rounds off of vehicles and stuff like that, and it can be a little bit tedious at times. But remember, a vehicle should not be not overpowered because you choose to not fire premium. The fact is that you can fire premium, and if you do, this vehicle becomes an absolute nightmare for the enemy team, and it's reliant on you choosing whether or not you want to lose credits, which you don't, by the way, because this is a tier 9 kind of premium. And so you don't really lose credits in this thing, and in fact you probably earn money when playing this vehicle because you're performing so well because it's just great. And yeah, in general I just think they've completely missed the mark, as with pretty much all of their World of War II premiums that they've been releasing recently. We've seen things like the NM116, which was completely, and I mean completely, out of the question, just broken. And then you've got this thing, which yet again is just completely broken, and it wouldn't be like Wargaming to release another broken, overpowered next stage in the power creep and release it for 16,000 gold, would it? I'm kind of getting a trend here with these new vehicles being released for 30, 40, maybe even £50, and then being super OP. It's not like they're trying to force this pay to win aspect, are they? I don't quite know, but of course you're seeing it with this vehicle, and that is the case. And I'm sure if you've actually played this thing or you've tested it out, then you are going to be in the same sort of boat. Or alternatively, you've come up against this thing and just had the pleasure of taking 4 shots of 360 alpha damage, as this M103 in just a second is about to find out. Now, granted that if you do not know how to play autoloaders, you may not have good games, but once again, that is not a thing about the tank, that is about you as a player. So maybe if you're not very well versed in autoloaders, you might not do as well as you're probably seeing within these replays. But the thing is that as soon as you get familiar with autoloaders and you've played them and you've kind of got the hang of them, they're really easy to play and they can be super rewarding, which is why this vehicle is, I guess, I don't know, someone who's very experienced. This is their kind of dream tank, because not only is it mobile, not only is it flexible, not only does it get 10 degrees of gun depression with 4-shot autoloader with 1440 damage, can go 70 kilometers an hour top speed forward, maybe when going down a hill, but 60 pretty much reliably anywhere, then yeah, this thing is just, I don't even know at this point. It's like Wargaming have completely, back in the day, Wargaming's premiums used to be, here you go, here's a premium vehicle, and it's good at one thing. And it might be really bad at a load of different things, but here's it fantastic at, say, having good DPM. Maybe the penetration sucks, maybe that's what kind of limits the vehicle. Now they're like, let's just make it one thing bad, which might be the sake of penetration, in the case of this vehicle, on your standard rounds as a tier 9. And, you know, that should be fine, and give everything else just completely disgusting. And yeah, this is not good. This is not acceptable, to be honest with you. As the point of view from someone who doesn't want to spend a load of money on a premium vehicle that's actually outrageously good, and clearly pay to win. Like, there's actually no reason why this vehicle should have been given out as a premium, because ultimately it's basically saying, well, people who pay money can have this overpowered premium that is way better than any Tech Tree Tier 9 Heavy, and trust me, it is. When you compare it to something like the E75 has maybe better armour, debatably, because ultimately people with high enough pen can just go straight through the upper plate, and pretty much anyone with premium ammunition has enough pen to do that. So there's no real differences in terms of armour. Yes, on the E75 you have a slightly smaller, a lot smaller cupola, which can help you out, but remember, like, armour on this game doesn't really mean a whole lot, so having armour is not really a kind of question. And the accuracy, aim time, and just in general this vehicle, there's just perfect for pretty much everyone. You can see here up against the Object 777, the tier 9 autoloader that used to be very good, but compared to this is just super inferior. Yeah, I just don't know what to say. But you can see in this gameplay, we've just been using this mid-ridge. I mean, nothing spectacular in the game, but we've still been able to pick up 4,350 damage, which is only 3 reloads of full penetrating shells, which you can do with this vehicle if you're coming up against a lot of the mediums, and also some of these slow ogre heavy tanks that are just sat out, or maybe you can catch out. Things like the VKP or the Maushan and stuff like that, where you catch them in the side, it's just good night, and that's really where this comes in super nice to play. But regardless of that, I think the key thing is that I want to say, like, Wargaming should just not create any more of these premiums, but we all know it's going to happen again. And yeah, my thoughts are just that if you want a super overpowered premium vehicle at tier 9, then the Cobra T54 is probably your best bet. If you don't want to support Wargaming's exploration into just producing pay-to-win vehicles, then don't go out and buy this. And if you actually want to save money and not spend your money on a £40 to £50 tank, then definitely don't spend it on this game. You could literally go out and buy the new COD for nearly the same price as this vehicle, so yeah, I would highly recommend you get an actual full game as opposed to purchasing one vehicle on this game especially. But yeah, that's up to you as to what you do with your own money. That's just my kind of take on it. And usually my view with every single premium on this game is that they're not worth it unless you really are kind of a veteran or someone that, like, genuinely just plays this game only. And even then, like, spending 30 or 40 quid on one tank is probably not the way to go, and you'd be better off buying a bundle at like 50% off instead. But at the end of the day, this vehicle is overpowered. You've seen here 4,800 damage has been done within this replay, 986 assistance, and that's something we haven't touched on, is that you might think, oh, it's got everything, it can't possibly have view range. Oh, it has view range as well. Oh, of course it does. And of course, it's not just okay view range, it's actually pretty good view range, to the point where you've got nearly medium view range. I know that it does have this big cupola on the top, which, you know, granted, I mean, in reality, it would help out in terms of vision, but in terms of balance on this game, absolutely not. And this vehicle, just complete stark contrast to the previous or the other vehicle that they released within the game as part of the Cold War mode. But yeah, I'm very, very interested to see what you guys think about this vehicle. Have I completely overstated this vehicle? Because to be honest with you, I could probably talk to high heavens about how this thing is just ridiculous. But it'll be interesting to see your opinions and to see what you guys think about this vehicle and whether or not it should even be in the game anyway, because it is a G.I. Joe tank. And yeah, granted, you guys have a much better view, I guess, in general than I do of this game. But yeah, this vehicle, in my opinion, super OP. And that's kind of where it's at. 5,600 damage done in this game, and you're about to witness the one negative of this vehicle is that even with the APCR rounds, sometimes you just cannot pen. Granted, the IS-4 keeps going up into the position where it keeps like raising his upper plate up to the point where we were aiming when we were trying to go for the lower plate, but I guess that is the key weak point of the vehicle. Maybe, even if it is a weak point, even if there are any weak points of this, I don't know. But yeah, that's what today's video is on, just showcasing this absolute nightmare and why I really hope Wargaming never ever introduce something like this ever again. But we all know it's going to happen, and it'll be interesting to see what the next vehicle is. Maybe it'll be a British tank or something, rather than what seems to be just Americans. But yeah, hopefully you did enjoy this video. Hopefully it wasn't too much of me just ranting about the fact that they brought in this absolutely disgusting premium tank. But yeah, thank you. And I hope you did enjoy. Of course, let me know what you think, and I hope you'll join me in the next video tomorrow, which showcases the other premium vehicle for the Cold War game mode that is a G.I. Joe tank as well, and is green and has a missile launcher with like 12 shells in a magazine and fires multiple at once. And yeah, you'll see that tomorrow.